Hello, welcome to the Mission Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Thompson, an attorney, certified financial planner, and founder of a financial planning firm that serves LGBTQ entrepreneurs. I created this podcast to help mission-driven entrepreneurs build businesses that are both profitable and meaningful. On the show, you'll hear conversations from diverse entrepreneurs and experts who support small businesses in many, many ways. We'll talk about marketing, money, strategy, mindset, and what it really takes to build a business that aligns with your values and supports the life that you want. So whether you're just getting started or growing an established business, you're in the right place. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mission Driven Business Podcast, where we help entrepreneurs build businesses that are profitable, sustainable, and aligned with their values. I'm your host, Brian Thompson, and today we're talking about a question that many mission-driven entrepreneurs wrestle with. Do I have the correct business structure? Now, when most people hear business structure, they think taxes. And they think about, should I be in an LLC? Should I be an S Corp? Should I switch to a C Corp? Am I paying too much in self-employment tax? And yes, taxes matter. But for mission-driven entrepreneurs, the structure question becomes something deeper. Your business structure affects who can own the business, who can share in the profits, how you make decisions, how easy or hard it is to bring on employees or investors, and whether the mission can survive beyond you. So today, I want to take a step back and walk through the major business structures available to mission-driven business owners. I know you've heard me talk a lot about this before, especially when it comes to taxes, but today we'll also talk about it as it relates to your values and your legacy. By the end of this episode, you have a better sense of what each structure is, what each structure is best for, where it falls short, and what questions to ask yourself before deciding which structure that you want or which structure fits your business. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. This episode is educational. It's not legal, tax, or financial advice specific to your situation. So choosing or changing your business structure should involve a business tax attorney, a tax attorney, or a tax advisor, and a financial team. All right, let's get into it. Let's first talk about why business structure matters. For many entrepreneurs, the original business structure was chosen quickly. You formed an LLC when you first started because that's what you had heard you needed to do. Maybe your accountant then recommended an S Corp because your income increased. Or maybe you became a corporation because someone told you that real businesses are established in Delaware. Whatever it is, all of those could have made perfect sense at the time. But businesses evolve. You may start as a solo consultant and later want to bring on partners. You may start as a founder-led company and later want employees to share in ownership. Or you may start by focusing on income and later realize that the business has a broader community purpose. Or you realize you may want to sell someday and you want the business to outlive you along with its mission. So the real question isn't simply, what structure saves me the most in taxes? The better question is, what structure supports the kind of business that I'm trying to build right now? For mission-driven entrepreneurs, I think that comes down to 5 key areas. 1, ownership. 2, profit sharing. 3, decision-making. 4, tax and administrative complexity. And 5, mission protection. So let's walk through the different structures with those key ideas in mind. First, we'll talk about the simplest structure, a sole proprietorship. This is when you're operating the business as yourself without a separate legal entity. This may work when you're just getting started and you're testing out an idea or running a very small solo business. The advantages are simplicity and low cost. There's not much setup. There are fewer formalities, and you have full control over everything that happens in the business. But the downsides are significant. There's no liability protection. It's hard to add owners. It's not ideal for growth. And it doesn't create a structure for shared ownership, employee participation, or long-term mission protection. From a mission-aligned perspective, a sole proprietorship may be fine for the earliest stage of a solo business. But if you're building something meant to grow or employ people or share profits or create impact beyond you, it's probably not enough. Next is the LLC, or limited liability company. For many mission-driven businesses, the LLC is the most flexible structure available to you. An LLC can have one owner or multiple owners. It can be taxed in different ways as an S Corp or a partnership. It can be flexible in profit sharing and allow different governance structures. And the operating agreement can be customized to reflect how the business actually wants to work. That flexibility is super powerful. For example, you might have one member who contributes more capital and another who contributes more labor. They are able then to share in profits differently or the same. You may want to share profits differently from ownership percentage. You might want to create buy-in rights for future partners, or you may want the business mission related commitments to show up in the operating agreement. The downside is that this flexibility requires thoughtfulness. A poorly drafted operating agreement can create confusion and conflict. And depending on how the LLC is taxed, there are certain self-employment tax considerations. But from a mission-driven standpoint, the LLC is often a strong fit for businesses that want flexibility in ownership, profit sharing, and governance. If you think, I want to share ownership and profits in a way that reflects contribution, values, or mission, an LLC is worth exploring. Now let's talk about the structure I see a lot and I get asked about the most, the S Corp. In fact, I did an entire solo episode on this, so if you want a deeper dive into S Corps, go back and listen to podcast 114. As an overview, an S Corp is not actually a legal entity in the same way that an LLC or corporation is. It's a tax selection. Many businesses are legally LLCs, but taxed as S Corp for federal and state tax purposes. The main reason people choose S Corp taxation is the potential self-employment tax savings that I mentioned before. When the business is profitable, the owner may be able to pay themselves a reasonable salary and then take additional profit as distributions, which can reduce payroll taxes. That can be really valuable, but there are trade-offs. S Corps have ownership restrictions. They generally have only one class of stock. Distributions need to follow ownership percentages, which means that S Corps are not flexible when it comes to creative profit sharing. So if the business owner says, I want to give one person 20% ownership, but 40% of the profits for the next 5 years, that won't work. Or something like, I want some employees to participate economically without giving them equal voting rights, that won't work either. The S Corp may start to feel very restrictive in this sense. Doesn't mean that an S Corp is bad. They certainly are not. They can be great for profitable founder-led businesses with relatively simple ownership. But if your vision includes flexible ownership, special allocations, employee participation, or community-based profit sharing, the S Corp may not be the best long-term fit for you. For mission-driven entrepreneurs, the S Corp question is not, is this saving me taxes? Or I guess it's not just, is it saving me taxes? It's also, is the structure limiting the kind of business I want to build? Now, let's look at the C Corp. This structure, many people associate with startups or venture capital and high-growth companies. C Corp can have multiple classes of stocks. It can have unlimited shareholders and generally can attract institutional investors, and it can support complex equity agreements. If your business is trying to raise venture capital or scale rapidly, a C Corp may be the expected structure. But for many small and mid-sized business owners, the trade-offs can be significant. C Corps create double taxation, where the corporation pays tax on profits, and then shareholders pay tax, again, on dividends they receive. They also involve many formalities and administrative work. And culturally, the C Corp model often maximizes shareholder returns. Doesn't mean that a C Corp can't be mission-driven, but the structure itself does not automatically protect its mission. If your primary goals are shared ownership, community accountability, long-term mission preservation, you may need additional tools layered on top of the C Corp. One of those tools is a benefit corporation. A benefit corporation is a legal structure that allows, and in many cases requires, a company to consider social and environmental purposes alongside profit. Now, this is different from a B Corp certification. B Corp certification is a third-party certification, but benefit corporations is a legal structure available in many states. For mission-driven entrepreneurs, this can be appealing because it gives the company permission to consider stakeholders beyond shareholders. As I mentioned earlier, traditional for-profit corporations focus on maximizing profits for the shareholders and taking action to promote a social or environmental cause. that does not serve profits could violate your duty to shareholders. A benefit corporation, which still operates for profit, has an added social and environmental purpose. This allows the officers and directors to act in furtherance of the stated social and environmental purpose without violating their duty to shareholders. The additional shareholders might include employees, customers, communities, environment, or the company's broader public benefit. The advantage is that the mission is formally recognized in the legal structure and can provide accountability and signal that the company is serious about its purpose. But a benefit corporation does not automatically solve every mission alignment issue. It doesn't change who owns the company. It doesn't automatically create employee ownership, and it doesn't automatically create flexible profit sharing. So think of a benefit corporation as a mission recognition tool, not a complete ownership or governance solution on its own. It can be excellent for companies that want to balance profit and purpose, especially if they still want a more traditional corporate structure. Next, we'll talk about the cooperative. This structure is another one that's highly attractive to mission-driven business owners. Make sure to check out last week's episode with Saphir Hopton for a deeper dive on cooperatives. A cooperative is a business owned and governed by the people who use, work in, or contribute to it. There are different types of cooperatives: worker cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, real estate cooperatives, and multi-stakeholder cooperatives. For mission-driven businesses, cooperatives can be incredibly powerful because they align ownership with participation. In a worker cooperative, the employees own and govern the business. In a consumer cooperative, customers and members may own the business. In a producer cooperative, producers or suppliers may own it. The biggest advantage is democratic governance. Cooperatives are designed around shared ownership and shared benefit. That makes them especially compelling when the mission is connected to economic democracy, community wealth building, or worker empowerment. All those benefit everyone who's involved in a cooperative. But cooperatives also require a different mindset. Decision-making can be a lot slower because you have to take into consideration everyone's thoughts. It needs to be clear on governance. Education is also important. And many advisors, lenders, and investors are less familiar with co-op structures, so it may be hard to get funding or legal or financial advice. If you're thinking, I want the people creating the value to own the business, the cooperative model deserves a serious look for you. Another option is employee ownership, especially through an employee stock ownership plan or an ESOP. An ESOP is often used as a succession planning tool. It allows a business owner to transition ownership to an employee over time by creating a separate entity, it's a trust, and then contributing cash to the trust to buy existing shares, issue new shares, or borrow money to purchase large blocks of stock. This can be a powerful way to reward the people who help build the business while preserving the company's independence. There can also be meaningful tax advantages depending on the situation, but ESOPs are not simple, not in the slightest. They're governed by the Internal Revenue Service and the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA. They're usually best suited for larger, more established businesses because they involve significant administrative, valuation, compliance, and legal work. For smaller businesses, there may be other ways to create employee ownership or profit sharing without a full ESOP. And from a mission perspective, ESOPs can be strong when the founder wants employees to benefit from the value they help create. But again, ownership doesn't automatically equal culture. The business still needs to have thoughtful governance, communication, and leadership. Finally, let's talk about steward ownership and purpose trust models. These are less common, but very interesting for mission-driven entrepreneurs. The basic idea is that the business is structured so that control stays with people committed to the company's purpose, while excessive extraction or mission drift is limited. In some cases, a trust may hold certain rights in the business to preserve the mission. You likely heard about this when Patagonia's founder, Yvon Chouinard, restructured its ownership in 2022 into a hybrid stewardship model between the Patagonia Purpose Trust and a 501c4. These models can help answer a question many founders eventually face. How do I make sure the business does not lose its soul after I leave? That's often a real concern. A founder can spend years building a company around values, community, care, and integrity. Then the business gets sold, new owners take over, and the mission disappears. Steward ownership models are designed to prevent that. The downside, again, like the ESOP, is complexity. These structures require specialized legal counsel. They're also less familiar in the United States, and they may not benefit businesses that have traditional investors for a simple exit path. But for founders who care deeply about independence, purpose, and legacy, these models are worth knowing about, especially if you plan to get as big as Patagonia someday. Now that we've covered the main structures, let's zoom out. There's no perfect structure. Every structure optimizes for something. A sole proprietorship optimizes for simplicity. A S Corp often optimizes for tax efficiency. An LLC optimizes for flexibility. A C Corp optimizes for investment and scale. A benefit corporation optimizes for formal mission recognition. A cooperative optimizes for democratic ownership. An ESOP optimizes for employee succession. And a purpose trust optimizes for mission preservation. So the question has to not only become what is the best structure, but what is it the best structure for? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to optimize? This is where I would encourage every entrepreneur to pause. Before changing your structure, ask yourself, who should own this business? Should the ownership be limited to founders, or should employees have a path to ownership? Should profits be shared? Should profits follow ownership? Or should they reflect labor, contribution, tenure, mission impact? And who should make decisions? This is a big one. Do you want centralized control, shared governance, employee voting, or shareholder input? Do you need outside capital? Are you trying to raise money? If yes, what rights will investors inspect? And will those rights conflict with the mission that you've established for your business? And also, how important is tax efficiency? Are you willing to accept more taxes and complexity if the structure better supports your values? And finally, what happens when you are no longer leading the business? Does the mission depend on you personally, or is it protected in the structure itself? I think that's also a very important question because founders are on a mission, especially us mission-driven business owners. Their values, relationships, and judgments hold everything together. But if the mission lives only with the founder, it's vulnerable. A mission-aligned structure helps move the mission from personality to policy, from intention to design. Here are a few red flags that your current structure may no longer be a good fit. First, you want to share profits different from ownership percentage. That's hard for an S Corp. Second, you want to add owners who don't fit S Corp eligibility. That might also mean you need a different structure. Third, you want employees to become owners, but you do not have a clear path to do so. This is a governance and structure question, not just a compensation question. Fourth, you want to protect the mission if the business is sold. That may require more than a standard LLC or corporation. Fifth, you choose your structure only for tax reasons. Again, tax savings are important, but they shouldn't be the only factor. A structure that saves money but blocks long-term vision may be more expensive than it looks. I also want to give you a practical example. Imagine a founder who runs a profitable consulting firm. Years ago, they elected an S Corp status because the business was making good income and the tax savings made sense. For a while, that structure worked and the owner was happy. But now the founder wants to bring on 2 senior team members into ownership. One team member has been with the company for years and manages major client relationships. Another is newer, but brings specialized expertise and could help grow a new line of business. The founder does not want everyone to have equal economic rights right away. They want to reward contributions over time. They also want to build a commitment to allocate a portion of its profits to support community-based work. Suddenly, an S Corp feels a little bit too tight. not because it was wrong when they chose it, but because the business has evolved. At that point, the conversation should be, which structure fits the next version of this business? That might mean staying in S Corp and creating a separate bonus structure, or it might be converting an LLC to be taxed as a partnership. It might mean exploring a cooperative model. It might mean adding mission-related provisions to the governing documents or the operating agreements. The point is not to jump to a solution. The point is to align the structure with the vision. Okay, I know I've been talking for longer than normal, so I'll leave you with this takeaway. Your business structure is not just paperwork. It's a container. It shapes what is easy, what is hard, what is rewarded, who has power, and what survives over time. For mission-driven entrepreneurs, all of that matters. Because your goal is not just to make money. Your goal is to build something that reflects your values, supports your life, serves your community, and creates sustainable impact. The right structure should help you do all that. So if you haven't reviewed your structure in a while, this may be the time. Not because something's wrong, but because your business may have entered a new season. And a new season may require a new container. If this episode brought up questions for you, start by asking, what am I optimizing for right now? Tax savings, simplicity, flexibility, shared ownership, capital, mission protection, or legacy. Once you know what you're optimizing for, you can work with your legal, tax, and financial advisors to evaluate whether your current structure still fits. And remember, the best structure is not necessarily the one that minimizes taxes today. The best structure is one that supports your business that you're trying to build over the next decade. All right, that's it for today. If this episode was helpful, share it with another entrepreneur considering growth, ownership, or succession. And until next time, keep building a business that is profitable, sustainable, and aligned with your values. Thank you for listening to the Mission Driven Business Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Thompson. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. And if you know another entrepreneur who could benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. Until next time, keep building a business that creates both profit and purpose.